we're going to talk a little bit of boxing real quick. Talking the fight that's going to happen this weekend, which is Chris Colbert versus Roger Gutierrez. Roger Gutierrez, of course, is the WBA super featherweight world champion. He won it against Rene Alvarado. For those of you who don't know who Rene Alvarado is, you can look him up. But he had a rematch with Rene Alvarado. Rene Alvarado had actually beaten Roger earlier in his career, but Roger was able to beat Alvarado twice. He dropped Alvarado, I think it's 3 times in the first fight, and the second fight won by unanimous decision. Um, Roger Gutierrez is a Venezuelan boxer. Venezuelan boxers, as you know, carry a lot of power, and he's got heavy hands. He's got heavy hands, and he stopped just about every single opponent he has faced. So Chris Colbert will be facing yet another power puncher in Roger Gutierrez. Roger Gutierrez basically fights on the outside, utilizes his jab. His power is mostly on the outside. He doesn't really, when you collapse his arms and he throws punches on the inside, his timing's pretty decent. Uh, yeah. Now, Chris Colbert, and he's an orthodox fighter. Chris Colbert can switch from orthodox to southpaw, as we all know. He's quick hands. He has much quicker feet than Gutierrez. He's great timing, and he can fight basically at almost any range. Um, so this fight may be the fight in which Chris Colbert becomes the WBA champion. As we all know, Gervonta Davis used to be the super champion in that division, but of course he vacated that title. So there's only the normal championship, which is great because the WBA is trying to get rid of super champions. So the actual WBA champion right now is Roger Gutierrez. And this will be his second defense of his title, at least against his second opponent, who he'll be defending his title against, not necessarily second defense. It'll be his second defense as well. And he is, as I can see, determined. He says he's going to be ready to face Chris Colbert. Just my honest feedback on this. I think that Chris brings a lot of tools to the table that, I mean, Gutierrez has a good jab. He has a decent jab. But Chris is much faster than him. And the different ways in which Chris can fight on box, I mean, it's a lot to bring to the table. And I just don't think that Roger Gutierrez is going to be able to handle that. And it may be possible that Chris will stop Roger Gutierrez because he's going to take the fight to Roger Gutierrez. He's definitely going to do that. And he's going to sort of smother a lot of his power. I've seen him do that with other opponents, and I think Chris is going to do the same thing. He's going to smother Gutierrez's power. And because he has so much skill and ability, and he can fight and punch to the body, to the head, and he has quick hands, I think he's going to break him down late and probably get the stoppage late on him. So if it doesn't happen that way, maybe a unanimous decision. But either way, Gutierrez has to, if he wants to really have a chance in this fight, he has to establish his jab and keep Chris at a respectable distance where his power is effective and also his boxing is effective. So he has to keep Chris at bay, which means Chris will be pushing him back unless he can catch Chris with something that makes Chris respect him and his power. Gutierrez has decent timing. It's nothing spectacular, but he has decent timing as well. So those are aspects, I think, of his game that he should really work on, his timing and his jab, particularly how he utilizes his jab, like how Leo Santa Cruz versus Abner Mares used his jab very, very well, and used his footwork very, very well, because it's how you cut your angles. But Chris brings a lot to the table. He can fight on the inside, he can fight on the outside, he can fight southpaw, he can fight orthodox. He can jab you, he can feint you, and then come in. I mean, he can do many things. So this level of opponent is one in which I see Roger has a lot of respect for him. And he's going to take some punishment. His defense should be on point. Hopefully, he has relatively good defense. And those things will be very important to try to beat a Chris Colbert. But as it stands, I got Chris Colbert winning, and I have him winning by stoppage. I think he stops uh, Roger Gutierrez. Was able to look at Lomachenko versus Richard Comey. And Lomachenko, I had predicted late that Lomachenko would, I think he would stop Richard Comey, and he almost did. He almost stopped Richard Comey, but his corner didn't throw in the towel. And Richard Comey made it to the finish line. And Richard Comey even landed some pretty good shots on Lomachenko in the fight. But Lomachenko was just too much for Richard Comey because, again, the foot speed, the footwork of Lomachenko is the problem in those kinds of fights. And Richard Comey, he's not the super sharpest, elite super sharpest fighter. He did well. He hung in there. He took Lomachenko's punches, but corner didn't throw in the towel this round, and that was really speaks a lot. And Richard Comey probably trained, a lot for this fight. So kudos to Richard Comey in not getting stopped. But I will say that it was a very dominant performance by Lomachenko down the stretch. Early on, Richard Comey was having success, but down the stretch, Lomachenko just took it over. I mean, completely took it over. Dropped Richard Comey and all that. So, but kudos to Richard Comey, man, for hanging in there to the end. But I wanted to talk about that little fight as well. Well, guys, that's about it for me and talking about boxing for the moment. Hope you guys are having a good day. God's blessings to you guys. I just want to leave a little story for you guys. So I was reading the book of Ruth, and Ruth, she married a Hebrew, an Israelite, in her homeland of Moab. Moab was a country where Baal was worshipped. Baal, which means Lord, yes, but in a different sort of way. And so her husband died, and her husband's family was there. His mother, his father, his brother was there. And she had an attachment to her husband's mother. She really liked her husband's mother. She and the other wife, they both married into the family and the traditions of the family and so on. So her sister, not her sister, but the other woman, Orpah, she married into the traditions of the Israelites. So she kind of was like, what people don't know was back in those days, you could actually join the Israelites. You wouldn't be an Israelite per se, but you could start, doing their rituals and following what their God and all that stuff. So anyway, that's what she was doing. So Naomi decided to return back to Israel because her husband died. Her husband died, and then those two women, they became widows as well. Their husbands died as well. So Naomi was heading back. Both of them was going with her, and they were crying and everything. And what happened was that Naomi was like, "Y'all young, y'all can get husbands again. Don't follow me. Don't go back to Israel with me." So Orpah, she went back to her family, her gods, and her people. But Ruth, which was the other woman, she was like, "Listen, man, I'm following you to the end. Your God's my God. Your people's my people. We going right or die." And Naomi couldn't convince her otherwise, so she and Ruth went back to Israel in a town called Bethlehem in Israel. In Judah, actually. Judah of Israel. Israel's divided Judah. It's kind of interesting, when you read these stories. Anyway, so in the end, what happened in the story is that she went back to Israel. She's a foreigner now in a foreign land. So Naomi was a foreigner in her land, But now she was far in Naomi's land. And what happened was that she now had to go out and look to get food for both of them. Ruth was the younger one. Naomi was old. And Naomi called herself Mara because it meant bitterness. It meant she had no children. And having children back in the day was a real that was the thing. That was the thing. You wanted to have a child. You wanted to have someone to carry on. Uh, that's the blessing. The blessing was children. Today it's different. And anyway, she uh, she had no children, so she was now bitter. She had no sons, she had no grandchildren, nothing. So Ruth, anyway, she goes out to get food, and the way how they do this, because the poor back in the day, and I wish this was like this now. I hope they still they make it like this. Big fields, corn, barley, whatever that they grow, they would let people come on the edge of the field and gather some of the leftover corn. So they'd harvest a lot of the corn, but the remaining corn that was left over, that was on the ground, poor people were allowed to harvest that stuff. You see, so the poor in the community and the people who so everybody had something to eat. Everybody eat out there. Everybody was taken care of. Today, the world is not like that, and I hope in my little space and in my little domain that we can restore that back. You know, we must not just have things for ourselves. We don't live in a world where it's just ourselves there. We must live in a world where we, as they say, give back. We must plant and leave stuff over for people who may want to pass and have something to eat. You know what I'm saying? And especially in this COVID era where a lot of people lost work and lost a lot of jobs and stuff, we need to have something left over so people can have something. So the principle is very simple, and I just want to explain it to you guys. The principle is very simple. The principle goes like this. If you make money, you might make a lot, maybe you make just enough to live, whatever. Make sure that some of that money goes to help people less fortunate than yourself. You may have to buy stuff for them. Ask them what they want, you buy it for them or whatever. Because in this day and age, people don't grow their own food. But I suggest to you, wherever you are in the world watching this, I suggest to you very strongly that you start growing your own food. Okay? You may not have money to buy food, but you can always have food there. And some of you always say, well, I live in the city. That don't mean nothing. Get yourself a cup, get yourself a little pot, and you can grow things in pots, okay? Don't make excuses. Go out there, get some seeds, and plant. And don't plant just for yourself. Always share what you plant with others. I learned this from my neighbors. I learned this from my family, my parents. And go back to the land, people. And the people who are farmers, the people who are farmers in the world, and they farm in big farms, make sure that those people give back as well. Most of them, country folk, are always generous anyway, but still, give back. Don't just harvest everything. Okay, so the poor people, she was, she went into this field, and she was actually, gathering up the remnants. And the man, the owner of the field, whose name was Boaz, happened to be related to the husband of Naomi. He actually was a distant cousin. And he heard about how Ruth was faithfully, day after day taking care of Naomi. And it really impressed him. So he said, hey, look. He called her up and he said, look here. Look here. In this field, I've instructed people for you to stay here. You stay right here, okay? Now, Boaz was an old dude as well. Anyway, but that's beside the point. The point is, he had a field. And in that field, he made sure she was protected. because if she went, if you go scavenging in different fields, you're not necessarily protected. The way how the world is. He made sure she was protected, and they even left stuff, extra stuff, where she was grazing, where she was trying to gather stuff for her. So he was kind to her because he realized this young woman, even though she's a foreigner, listen to me carefully. She was a foreigner. I'm gonna say it again. She's a foreigner, and I'm gonna say one more thing. She's not just a foreigner, you ladies and gentlemen. She a foreigner who people would consider pagan follower, foreigner. I want you to understand what I'm saying, follower, foreigner. I want you to understand what I'm saying because it's a paradigm shift. I don't want you guys to judge people based on where they from, what religion they practice. Don't judge people on those things, man. Judge them on their character, who they are, how they behave. That's what you judge people on. Okay? And this woman was honorable. She came from a foreign land where they worship a foreign god. She adopted the god of Naomi, and she followed Naomi. And she was loyal to Naomi. And she was honorable to Naomi. And she was gathering food, not for herself, even though she had to get some of it, but she was gathering it for her mother-in-law. In-law. She left her own blood, her flesh and blood, and was gathering this food for her mother-in-law. So, break it down. So at the end of the day, he admired that. He admired the quality and trait that this woman would go to a foreign land in uncertainty as to what would happen. So anyway, she went back home. She gathered the stuff. She gave it to Naomi. And while she was there, she told Naomi about Boaz and what he said to her and all that stuff after a good period of time. So this didn't happen the next day or anything. This happened over time. Maybe a couple months, whatever. So she told Naomi what Boaz said. And when Naomi realized that, she said, Boaz is a distant cousin of my family. And she told her what to do. She said, go. There's a custom here. She said, go in the afternoon. Dress up in your best garbs. Go down. And when he go down and lie down to sleep, you go by his foot and you sleep right there. Anyway, so she was right by his foot. And when he woke up, he was like shocked. He was like, what are you doing here? And she explained how if she found favor with him, that Naomi would choose him as the next relative to raise up a child for Naomi. Now, let me explain. So back in the day, if you, for example, were some sort of relation, close relation to somebody who died in a family, in order for that family to continue onwards, if those people never had no children, that is, in order for that family to continue, it was obligation to you in your relative's name to raise up a child on behalf of your relative. It's not your child. It won't be your child. It'll be your relative's child. Okay? That was the custom back in the day. So when she told Boaz that, Boaz was quite impressed because he was an old dude. And he said, instead of you going looking for one of them young guys, you decided to pick me. So he said, God bless you. He said, now you got to get off of this threshing floor because if they see you with me, they ain't going to look good. So here's the deal. I'm going to go. I think there's another relative that's closer to Naomi than I am. I'm going to go and I'm going to put the proposal before him concerning Naomi's estate. And if he agrees to the whole estate and you marrying you, then you will marry him. But if not, then it will be me. So Boaz was a very wealthy dude. Anyway, so Boaz went before everybody in the area, in the town, but as witnesses, and he brought the relative there, and he said, look here, Naomi is selling her land and property, and do you want to buy it? And the relative said, sure, I don't mind buying it. He said, but here's the catch. The catch is you will have to marry the daughter of Naomi, which is Ruth. the Moabite, the Moabitess. You're gonna have to marry her. And he was like, no, 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 homie, you can have that because listen, looky here, I got certain things, and that just won't work well with me. So the relative passed his shoe over to Boaz. That was the custom in the presence of witnesses. And Boaz then inherited the land and property from Naomi, and then he married Ruth. Now, remember, Ruth is a Moabitess. Now check this out. Ruth gave Naomi a child because it was in the name of Naomi that Ruth is raising up this child. Okay, she's not raising up this child for Ruth. She's raising it up for Naomi. So Ruth married Boaz. Boaz uh, brought forth a child. The child's name was Obed. Obed. Obed became the father of Jesse, who became the father of the great King David. King David, the second king, well, yes, the second king of Israel. He could have been the third king, but because, there was something with Shechem, but that's another story for another day. But he was the second king of Israel, right? Now, the point I'm making is this. A foreigner, somebody who is not of Israel, a foreigner who used to worship another god, foreigner from a land in which God had told the Israelites, wipe them dudes out. Never marry them dudes, right? Don't marry their daughters. This foreigner is the person who was inserted into the genealogy of King David, who of 14 generations later was the forefather of the one we call Jesus of Nazareth. But he wasn't really of Nazareth. He was born in Bethlehem, which was David's hometown, which is also Naomi's hometown, which was also Boaz's hometown, right? Which became Ruth's hometown, okay? So Obed became Naomi's son in the sense that, Naomi had a child. So she stopped calling herself Mara and called her name back Naomi. And she praised God for that. And Ruth was able to raise up seed on behalf of Naomi, on behalf of her dead son, Mahlon. And through Boaz, continued her genealogy. And the genealogy was so important that it was the genealogy that led to the King David, and also led to King David's final genealogy, thing, which was Jesus. Okay, so it's kind of crazy because when I read that story, people talk about it's a love story, whatever. It is a love story and sorts, in the sense that she loved Naomi so much that she was willing to take on her God and everything, and serve her completely, loyalty, absolute loyalty. So what did I take from this story, and why am I talking about this on a boxing channel? Well, a lot of boxers talk about loyalty. And I've learned that family goes beyond blood. Blood's great, don't get me wrong. But I've of late met a lot of people who they family, man, period. And there's a certain degree of truth and honesty and loyalty to these people that you can have around you. You can trust them, and you can speak, all your vulnerabilities, anything you want to speak around them, because these people are honorable and trustworthy. And in boxing, you need to have those kinds of people, stand-up people who are trustworthy, honorable, smart people, but not there just to extract money from you. Because they're people. I was listening to Love More Endu. Oh, I think I said his name wrong, but anyway, Endo, I think it is, or Endo. But he's a lawyer right now, criminal and family law he practices. And one of the things that's just very honorable about him, he's speaking about, in the industry sometimes you have yes men around you, and they're only there really to suck stuff out of you. They're not really there to bring anything to light. They just kind of chatter and echo what you say, but really they have another agenda. And I was thinking about how his career went, and how what he did with himself and how he developed himself, and the situations under which he went through that sort of brought him to law, and the integrity that he implements because of that. And if you guys haven't checked out Lovemore and those interview, I'm gonna put it up. Um, for those of you who don't know, he was the IBF, uh, I believe it is welterweight world champion at a certain point in time. He sparred the likes of Floyd Mayweather. He faced the likes of Canelo Alvarez. Uh, and several other top tier elite fighters. Canelo Alvarez obviously is undoubtedly the best boxer in the world at present. Even though I mean Terrence Crawford is number one as well, but he's one. I mean Canelo's one of the best out there, and nobody really touches his accomplishments right now who are active in boxing. I think he's the most accomplished boxer right now in boxing. And then you have Terrence Crawford, who is, again, it's right up there. And he's number one, boxer, pound for pound, the best boxer in the world, possibly. Um, but the point I'm making is that Lovemore Andrew faced Canelo, and he also faced a number of other really fantastic boxers. I think he also faced Vernon Forrest. He had never been dropped in his career, never been stopped in his career. Good defense, good fundamentals, you know. And so my point being that integrity is such an important thing in life, and honesty and truth. Now I always like to emphasize on those things, even if we get into boxing, and you'll notice my attitude kind of changes, but um, in the boxing, yes, boxing is a sport where it's kind of kill or be killed. But there's a really awesome thing about boxing that I love, and that is, as Lovemore Andrew said so correctly, you can't be out of control. You can't be wild and indisciplined. It teaches you discipline. The army teaches you discipline. To some degree, the police force teaches you discipline. If you don't have discipline, you could lose your life in the army or in the police force or any sort of place where um, it's either you or the thing that you're dealing with. And it teaches you a different mentality. And spiritually speaking, spiritual war is pretty much the same thing. Now, your enemy is not necessarily something you can see. A lot of times, your enemy is something that it has to do with a value, or it has to do with some inherent virtue that, or quality, should I say quality, not virtue. Virtues are cherished, but some inherent quality that you may exhibit or someone else may exhibit, and that's the thing that usually trips up certain people, and they go down the same pathway over and over again. And so, what's up, Leroy? Leroy Kong says, "Sorry, I'm late. Great live. I'm okay. Good to hear, bro. Good to hear. Listen, one of the things I just want to say to you, Leroy, because we were just talking about qualities and virtues, is I find you to be a stand-up, a stand-up kind of guy. Very honorable. You have your opinions, but you're very honorable. And one thing, it doesn't matter what people say, Leroy. I always tell people this. Your integrity will show. And in the end, it doesn't matter what people say. It's what you continue to do and the pathway you continue to take, which is honorable. And I really respect you, Leroy, a lot. I see you're a big DC fan. I know we'll talk a little bit about DC since we're here. So this channel is really a boxing channel, but my other channel, for some reason, I got a copyright strike. So at present, I can't really stream on that channel. So integrity, virtues. DC is something I like. I'm a DC fan myself. Um, Marvel's okay for some people. I know Leroy Kong is a Marvel fan as well. I think he likes DC more than Marvel. But ultimately, in the end, again, this is just talking about virtue, okay? And I always believe that integrity and virtue really makes everything what it needs to be. Um, when I look at Leroy, who's a big comic book fan, he loves Marvel, he loves DC. Um, I really take after your example, Leroy. You're a genuine person. You're a decent person. And I like that you have values of integrity. I like that you are very positive in what you say most of the time. And I like how you take your passion, your love, and you show it to everybody. Now, the danger in that is, and it's not really a danger, is that people can take that and twist it, and they can create their own narratives and uh, their own stories about an individual. But one thing they cannot do is change the core integrity of that individual. So, Leroy Kong, you are my friend, and I am loyal to you, my brother. No matter what people say about you and may say about you, know that you got one brother that's always going to back you up, and that's me. I know you. You may have friends that I don't have or people that you align with that I don't align with. That does not change who you are as an individual, because you are an open-minded guy who will listen to different people and respect different people's opinions. You may not agree with it, but you respect it. And for that, my brother, I got respect for you. Uh, Here is someone, I don't know how to pronounce your name, bro. You just showed up on my feed here in this live chat. What is your name? How do you say it? Von Rent? Is it Von Rent? Is it Von Rent is your name? So, I have a lot of respect for people who I can see in their character that they're good people. And I know Leroy Kong for a fact is a good person. And he shares his love for DC all the time. And he shares his love for a woman that body built. I think that's his thing, fit women and DC. He shares that a lot. But I can tell that he has some Christian values in him as well. So that's also a good thing, Leroy. Man, I wish, man, we could do a stream together. You know what I mean? Um, if you got time. But I want to share with everybody that Leroy Khan says, I tried reaching out to Belle. They poison her with hate. She doesn't want anything to do with me. She lets her friends turn against me. It's okay, man. That just means move on. You know? It's okay. Uh, Again, if you're not wanted in a certain area, then so be it. Don't stay there. Unless God told you to stay there and go back in like Paul did. But other than that, and it has to be somebody in there that wants to hear what you have to say. That's why you go back in. Um, but if they don't want you, move on. Move on. Don't worry about them. And you just do your thing. You know, can't be everybody's friend. Just what it is. That's the way this world works. But I do want to do a stream with you. So if you give me five, 10 minutes, I'm gonna come off of this one and I'm gonna stream with you. I want to talk with you one on one. That'd be nice. I'll use StreamYard. So if you're cool with that, let's get it on. I want to talk a little bit about DC and stuff. And you guys gonna have to forgive me because my other channel is down. I'm gonna talk a little bit of DC on this channel a little bit. If you guys want to chime in, no problem. If you guys are DC fans. So Leroy, I'm just gonna come off of this and go on to StreamYard. We could chop it up a little bit, if you don't mind. All right. I haven't gotten to talk to most of the crew, most of the people. You know, on my other channel. On my other channel, it's all about. I try to talk about Christian things and stuff on the other channel. So let me see if my phone can handle it, and I'm coming to you right now, Leroy. So I'm gonna sign out right now.